Welcome back to Respoiled. Today, I have another captivating story to share with you. But before we dive in, if you're new here, I invite you to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications, so you'll never miss out on all of my latest uploads. Now let's get started. Towards the end of World War II in 1945, a Japanese troop receives a retreat order message. The men swiftly gather their belongings and incinerate anything they cannot carry, erasing all traces of their presence. As they hurriedly clear each room, hazmat-clad figures transport corpses outside and stack them in heaps. Dynamite is prepared along the walls. Suddenly, a powerful pounding rattles the door, leaving deep dents in the metal. Colonel Kato and his men evacuate the building hastily, while some soldiers descend to the cells to execute the prisoners. Meanwhile, others douse the rooms and corpse piles with gasoline, igniting the inferno before the door succumbs to the assault. As Kato drives away, he watches the building explode in the rearview mirror, while a large humanoid creature emerges from the flames. Meanwhile, Chiak and her father Jungwon reach Seoul City, formerly known as Gyeongsan. They discover leaflets about Tokyo air raids distributed by Korean insurgents. Japanese authorities arrive and arrest anyone found with a leaflet, leading to violence. Chiak and Jungwon leave to avoid the chaos. Soon, Japanese police locate the building where insurgents produce the leaflets and violently suppress them. All the detained individuals face a grim choice: endure the torture chamber or join the Japanese army. While many opt to enlist, Taesang finds himself in the torture chamber where soldiers pressure him for information. Taesang, a prominent businessman renowned for his prosperous pawnshop and intelligence network, was apprehended by the Japanese army during a party. Commissioner Ishikawa suspects Taesang of an affair with his wife, Lady Maida. Despite Taesang's assertion that he only delivered a tea set to her, Ishikawa subjects him to violent interrogation. However, Taesang chuckles and notes that suspecting his wife of infidelity would be an insult to her dignity, something she wouldn't appreciate. Subsequently, Taesang is released, and Ishikawa presents him with a photo of Myongja, his pregnant lover who has disappeared. Ishikawa insists that Taesang locate her, or face conscription and the forfeiture of his pawnshop. With no alternative, Taesang agrees and dispatches his employees to begin collecting information from his shop. He discovers that many women have recently disappeared in the city. Shortly after, Jungwon seeks information, while Chiak purchases a damaged tricycle inexpensively. She then repairs it herself and rides it to the pawnshop, observing from a distance. Taesang, at the window, watches Ishikawa's spies on the street and notices her too. In the evening, Taesang surprises one of Ishikawa's spies and persuades him to give him a ride. Chiak trails them on her bike and observes Taesang entering a restaurant. However, Taesang isn't there to dine. He aims to use the back door to evade Ishikawa's spies. Aware of Chiak's pursuit, he quickens his pace into a dimly lit area and surprises her with his gun. As he questions her identity, he realizes she's armed too, prompting Chiak to prepare for self-defense. They engage in a prolonged struggle, and Taesang grabs the stick to strike her on the head, pausing in astonishment when her hat falls off, revealing her attractive face. Subsequently, both rush to retrieve their weapons and find themselves in a standoff. Taesang lowers his gun first to demonstrate trustworthiness, prompting Chiak to lower her knife and explain her search for a painter named Sachimoto. Taesang isn't keen on cases with low payouts, so Chiak mentions she's searching for her mother too, leading Taesang to assume the mother fled with the painter. Offended, Chiak slaps him and departs. Returning home, Taesang's employee reveals hiring top sleuths, who turn out to be Jungwon and Chiak, despite her reluctance to work with him. Taesang proposes a deal. He'll find the painter and her mother if they locate the girl for him, which they agree to. In the basement of Hongsung Hospital, Myongja sits among the other missing women. Kato and a scientist select two prisoners and escort them to separate cells, where they discover food and water awaiting them. They eagerly consume the provisions, unaware that Kato has tainted the water with a strange worm. Shortly after, Kato learns that the first test subject is exhibiting symptoms at an accelerated rate. In one cell, the woman suffers from severe headaches, leading to desperate actions and bleeding. Meanwhile, the second woman remains calm until Kato instructs his men to administer the serum. Soon after, she begins vomiting, and worm-like movements manifest beneath her skin. Afterward, Soldiers escort the painter Sachimoto from his quarters and request him to depict what he observes in the second cell. Using a light, Sachimoto peers inside and encounters a blood-soaked cell with a lifeless figure on the ground. Additionally, he notices a peculiar creature on the wall, which unexpectedly lunges toward him. A flashback discloses that a year earlier, Sachimoto sought employment at the hospital and was assigned to illustrate the outcomes of Japanese experiments, including witnessing a live dissection of a man. Frightened, Sachimoto dashed out of the room to vomit, reassured by a cleaning lady that everyone eventually acclimated to it. Later, Sachimoto visited all the detainees in the cells, observing even the cleaning lady was confined. This same cleaning lady became a test subject and morphed into the creature now assaulting Sachimoto through the door. He narrowly evades the extending claw and waits for it to withdraw before peering again, spotting a necklace that confirms her identity. Chiok stealthily reaches the Japanese command post, avoiding the guards as she climbs onto the rooftops. From there, she uses a spyglass to observe a woman handing a mysterious document to a man, who promptly departs. Chiok tails him and discovers he's dropped off at a location called the Spring Hall office. The following day, the sleuths inform Taesang that they've located the driver who last saw Myongja. By hanging him upside down, they persuaded him to divulge information. Myongja initially visited Ishikawa's house before being taken to Hongsung Hospital, indicating she's likely being held there. Access to the hospital is restricted to those with connections, prompting Taesang to approach his friend Juntae and bribe him to use his ID, as his affluent family is granted access. Subsequently, Taesang provides the sleuths with upscale attire, and his employee Mr. Gu assumes the role of his chauffeur to pose as a distinguished family. The guards at the hospital accept the ID, and once inside, Gu feigns illness to divert attention while Chiok clandestinely enters the records room. She quickly scans the files until interrupted by the janitor, Mr. O, prompting her to prepare her knife for defense. Jungwon appears unexpectedly with his gun, and O discerns their resistance members, agreeing to cooperate as he is also a rebel. Meanwhile, in the waiting room, Gu is on the verge of receiving an injection, but upon spotting the sleuths emerging, he declares an improvement in his condition. Just then, they hear a gunshot, attributed by a nurse to a nearby military base, though the team suspects it originated from beneath the hospital. In the lab, two guards face the creature's attack before reaching the door, prompting soldiers to shoot to fend it off. Despite their efforts, the creature's size allows it to grasp a soldier from a distance, with Kato instructing others not to intervene, deeming it part of the experiment. Using a tentacle, the creature absorbs the man's life force, prompting a soldier to shoot regardless, resulting in his swift demise. Shortly after, the sleuths brief Taesang on the information obtained from O. The hospital contains a military ward where numerous individuals from prisons are admitted, but none have exited. Opting to investigate further, the sleuths choose to spend the night there. Sirens suddenly pierce through the hospital, prompting employees to evacuate all visitors, but the sleuths, along with O, manage to remain inside. Meanwhile, in the basement, soldiers employ nitrogen blasts to pacify the creature. Subsequently, as the creature falls asleep, soldiers arrive with a cage to transport it away, discovering that the monster emits anthrax to defend itself during slumber. They transport the cage to the cell area, allowing the anthrax spores to disperse. Kato observes with satisfaction as prisoners in contact with the spores suffer from excruciating skin burns. Meanwhile, O and the sleuths conceal themselves on the rooftops. Due to tight security, Chiok descends and stealthily maneuvers, evading guards until she ascends a tower to observe the situation. She learns that soldiers are stacking the bodies afflicted by the anthrax. The following morning, reports spread that Hongsung Hospital shuts down indefinitely due to an unidentified contagion. Additional soldiers appear, and barriers encircle the hospital, subjecting it to military oversight. Taesang receives a visit from a nurse affiliated with the resistance, bearing a message from Chiok, "We found Myongja." Although unaware of the hospital's situation, the nurse witnessed numerous casualties and implores Taesang for aid, stressing the need to transmit a signal to the East Wing by 10 p.m. In the hospital, the staff persists in clearing out the cells. Many prisoners have perished, and numerous soldiers have succumbed or sustained severe injuries. Kato interrogates Major Endo, seeking details about what he terms perfection. 6 hours prior, Soldiers maneuvered the cage into the elevator to transport the creature to its new cell, inadvertently disconnecting the nitrogen tanks. Awakening, the creature lashed out with its tentacles, swiftly dispatching each soldier in turn. A soldier attempted to shoot, but he too perished. Upon reaching level 4, Kato and his men endeavored to observe the survivors from a vent on the floor above, but to no avail. The creature had fled the elevator, prompting Endo to direct another soldier to shut the door. Regrettably, the creature ensnared the man with its tentacles, compelling Endo to push him to his demise in order to close the door and restart the elevator's ascent. Despite being stabbed by the monster, the elevator's rapid movement and Endo's gunfire startled the tentacles, enabling him to survive and reach safety. Endo requests Kato to eliminate the creature due to its failure, but Kato views it as a success. Meanwhile, the monster expels the bullets from its wounds. Returning to Taesang, he devises a plan to reach the hospital while concealing the secret from Ishikawa's spies. He procures fireworks while pretending to play mahjong, then spends 30 minutes touring the town to scout the ideal route under the guise of sightseeing. He then goes to the tailor shop, feigning the need for a suit, but the tailor provides a drawing indicating the painter was spotted at the bar. Meanwhile, in the hospital, Mr. O conceals Jungwon in his cleaning cart to reunite him with Chiok after relaying the message. Chiok shelters a soldier named Choi, compelled to join the Japanese army but eager to aid his country. He reveals the troops are combating anthrax and confirms Myongja's survival. Last night, while cleaning the bodies, he spoke to her. The smell of death made him vomit, and his boss punished him by forcing his face into the vomit. Afterward, Choi attempted self-deletion, but Chiok intervened and saved him. Now, Choi provides the group with a map of the building before returning to his barracks. In the evening, Taesang attempts to tail the bartender who received the drawing and will meet Sachimoto at a restaurant. However, he encounters a group of Japanese thugs who are angry because Taesang hadn't pawned their pot. They beat him up and drag him into an alley. The leader threatens him with a sword, prompting Taesang to engage in combat when negotiation fails. He maneuvers swiftly to evade most attacks and uses bags of rice to obstruct their vision, yet sustains wounds on his arm and stomach. Eventually, the group overwhelms him, only to be interrupted by a Japanese cop who, feigning ignorance, departs. The leader taunts Taesang over his country's failures, prompting Taesang to kick him down and flee. Upon reaching the restaurant, however, Taesang finds the bartender and Sachimoto gone. Returning home to tend to his wounds, he's surprised to find Sachimoto brought by the bartender, expressing a desire to assist. Meanwhile, the sleuths scale the hospital building, reaching the roof where Chiok infiltrates through the vents. Using the map, she locates the lab and discovers jars containing human parts, including heads, skin, and even a newborn baby. Startled by a touch, she finds 2 cells teeming with children. Despite limited time, she refuses to forsake them and begins sending them out through the vent. Suddenly, she hears a doctor approaching, forcing her to conceal herself. The doctor notices the vacant cells and detects movement in the vents, leaving Chiok with no option but to eliminate him with her dagger. At the entrance, Sachimoto brings Taesang back to the hospital, concealing him in his carriage while Juntae assumes the role of his driver. Arriving at the rendezvous point, they find no sign of the sleuths, only an arrow on the wall, prompting Taesang to exit through the window. Meanwhile, Chiok guides the kids through the vents, but Jungwon hesitates to open it as soldiers arrive on the roof to drink. Jungwon emerges to divert their attention just as fireworks illuminate the sky, serving as Taesang's signal. Capitalizing on the distraction, Jungwon engages the soldiers in combat, soon joined by Chiok to assist. Working together, they eliminate most of the soldiers, but one lurks behind Chiok, poised to shoot. Thankfully, Taesang intervenes and dispatches him first. Meanwhile, in the basement, director Ichiro demonstrates to Kato his success in training the creature. He dispatches 3 prisoners to level 4, where the monster responds to the toll of a bell, associating the sound with feeding. Ichiro continues to feed prisoners to the monster, expressing his desire to create an army of similar creatures. Suddenly, soldiers discover the deceased doctor and the vacant cells, initiating a search throughout the building for the perpetrators. The group descends from the roof and joins Juntae and Sachimoto, using cleaning carts to transport the children to Sachimoto's room. A child notices drawings of the monster, prompting a scream that alerts a nearby soldier, who then informs the others. As everyone views the drawings, Taesang reveals to Chiok that the man is the painter she sought. Chiok shows Sachimoto the drawing he created of her mother a year ago and inquires about her whereabouts. It emerges that her mother is the woman transformed into a monster, and Jungwon possesses a matching necklace. However, Sachimoto fibs, claiming ignorance of the matter. Taesang offers his clothes to the tallest boy, instructing him to pose as the carriage driver, mirroring his earlier strategy to conceal the children. When the soldiers arrive to inspect Sachimoto's room, the group has vanished. Rushing down the corridor, the soldiers encounter Sachimoto and O pushing a cleaning cart, only to find it empty. Simultaneously, the children exit through the window and depart the hospital as the gates open for an approaching vehicle. They finally arrive at the pawnshop, where the employees welcome all the children as instructed by Taesang's note. Afterwards, O and Sachimoto retreat to their rooms to avoid drawing attention. The remaining 4 individuals head back to the roof to utilize the vent once more. Juntaek employs a sword to dispatch several unconscious soldiers from earlier encounters. At the watchtower, a guard spots the sword and dispatches a group of men. Upon reaching the roof, the soldiers discover a proclamation of Korea's independence. This prompts an immediate alarm, rousing all soldiers to scour the vicinity. In the car, Ishikawa's wife, Lady Maida, informs Ichiro that Taesang is within the hospital. Concerned for Myongja and her baby's safety, Lady Maida is removed from her cell and escorted to another area by soldiers. The creature observes them and learns to operate the elevator. Once Myongja is escorted away, the soldiers attempt to use the elevator, only to encounter the creature inside. It pursues them relentlessly, resulting in their demise. Subsequently, it rampages through the floor, eliminating any soldier in its path without hesitation. The area becomes a scene of carnage, with the creature using the elevator to continue its rampage on upper levels. Learning this, Ichiro increases security measures, necessitating a change in the group's route. Upon their return to the vent, a rooftop soldier notices the displaced grill and investigates the vent. Eventually, the team descends through a laundry chute and finds themselves surrounded by soldiers upon landing in the laundry room. A confrontation erupts, during which Juntaek seizes the opportunity to flee. Despite considerable struggle, the trio successfully eliminates all the soldiers, albeit at the cost of Taesang's reopened wound. Following Chiok's treatment of his injury, the team divides to search for Myongja. Taesang and Chiok explore the second level while Jungwon investigates the third. As they depart, Taesang is startled to witness the bodies on the floor and is taken aback by the sudden appearance of the creature, which proceeds to claim another victim. Meanwhile, Juntaek reaches the cells and encounters 2 comrades who also participate in the rebellion. Juntaek inquires about the whereabouts of the dynamite required for their upcoming operation, but his friends withhold the information until they are liberated. Suddenly, soldiers encircle Juntaek and confine him to the laboratory. Turning back to the creature, it launches an assault on the pair, prompting Chiok to fire at it several times before they flee. The monster pursues them through the corridors, but they narrowly evade another attack and find refuge in a room, securing the metal door behind them. While the creature pounds on the door, Jungwon arrives, lays a trail of gunpowder, and lures the beast towards him by shooting at it. He ignites the gunpowder to impede its advance. Despite this, the creature persists in its assault with tentacles, prompting Jungwon to intensify the flames before retreating into the vents. Meanwhile, soldiers discover Chiok and Taesang in the room and take them into custody. Choi ensures he retrieves Chiok's knife. The duo faces separate interrogations. The soldier accompanying Taesang requests money in a house in exchange for his release. Taesang agrees only if Chiok and Myongja can leave with him, and he is confined to a cell. Meanwhile, Chiok endures a brutal beating and is nearly assaulted until Kato intervenes. Escorting her to his office, Kato recognizes her resemblance to the creature and inquires about her identity. Recognizing the potential of her genetics, Kato offers her a glass of water containing a worm. The following day, Ichiro meets with Juntaek's influential father, who is astonished to learn of his son's involvement in rebellion. He bribes Ichiro to maintain silence, but as Ichiro departs, Taesang's employees approach him with a plan. In the hospital, Juntaek is administered a unique serum and tasked with listing his comrades' names within an hour. Reflecting on past memories, Juntae sheds tears while jotting down all the names he recalls. Meanwhile, Taesang confides in his fellow inmates about his agreement with the officer. He signals his employees, prompting the removal of all guards from the prison. With a key provided, Taesang unlocks and reseals the cell upon exiting, distributing the key to others with instructions to wait for 30 minutes. While clandestinely navigating, Taesang observes Chiok being escorted away, and Choi discreetly passes her the dagger. In her cell, Chiok discovers words on the wall written in blood, expressing, "I miss you Chiok my dear daughter," leading to a breakdown. In the corridor, Taesang conceals himself to avoid detection. When the opportunity arises, he surprises two soldiers, swiftly subduing them. He then releases Chiok, who embraces him gratefully before departing to locate her mother. Returning to Kato's office, it becomes clear that she did not consume the water. Inquiring about her mother, Chiok learns the truth about the monster from Kato. Enraged, she strikes him and demands a solution for her mother, but Kato deems it impossible. Meanwhile, Taesang dashes through the corridors, incapacitating more soldiers before reaching the cells, only to find them vacant. Suddenly, he hears gunshots, triggering memories of his mother shielding him from soldiers, extracting a promise to survive before her fatal beating. Following the noise, Taesang finds prisoners attempting to escape, thwarted by guards. Swiftly, he eliminates the soldiers, aiding the prisoners' escape. Despite one guard's survival attempt, the monster dispatches him. Amidst chaos, the creature claims another victim. Taesang's bullets prove futile, forcing him to evade attacks. Out of ammunition, he triggers a nitrogen tank explosion, incapacitating the creature. Amid anthrax spores, they reach safety and reunite with Jungwon in a secure room. Taesang entrusts Jungwon with the map, tasking him to guide the prisoners to safety while he ventures back into the vents to locate Chiok and her mother. Meanwhile, Ichiro assaults the soldier involved in the escape deal orchestrated by Taesang. However, his actions are halted by a guard reporting anthrax-related casualties among their troops. Adding to the crisis, Ishikawa investigates the disappearance of women, prompted by information from Juntae's father. Concurrently, in Kato's office, a soldier delivers similar news, prompting Chiok to seize his uniform at gunpoint. However, their path is obstructed by soldiers intent on incinerating the monster. Seizing the opportunity, Kato exposes Chiok's identity, resulting in her being subdued from behind. In town, rebels receive notes signaling a rescue mission, which also reaches Maida's hands. Simultaneously, someone unlocks Myongja's cell door. At the hospital entrance, Ishikawa persuades Ichiro to allow him to investigate, revealing Mr. Gu as his truck driver awaiting his boss. In the basement, Chiok awakens on the floor under the watchful eyes of hazmat-suited soldiers above. Kato reveals his team's strategy of using nitrogen to guide the creature into the elevator. Meanwhile, Taesang stealthily enters, taking cover behind boxes, while Choi feigns conversation with Kato to relay information. The elevator delivers the creature in front of Chiok, poised to attack, but it hesitates as memories resurface upon recognizing her. Angered, Kato commands his men to open fire, prompting the creature to shield Chiok. As soldiers activate the nitrogen, the creature breaks Chiok's chains, pushes her aside, and unleashes its tentacles, killing a few soldiers before collapsing. Chiok wants to assist, but Taesang intervenes, pulling her away. The creature is confined to a cell while Taeko instructs his men to locate Chiok. Meanwhile, outside, Manager Gu attempts to move his truck and bribes a guard with alcohol when discovered. As soldiers comb through the building, the duo flees through the vents and subdues two men for their uniforms. Joining forces with Choi, they locate Jungwon in the infirmary, where he startles them with the prisoners, almost harming Choi in surprise. Abruptly, the door opens, revealing the soldier Taesang struck a deal with, accompanied by Myongja. Taesang informs them they have 10 minutes to reach the truck before departure at 6 o'clock. Using bedsheets as a makeshift rope, they begin guiding people out the window. Suddenly, a soldier bursts in, catching them in the act, prompting Choi to swiftly eliminate him. The noise alerts the remaining troops, leading Taesang, Chiok, and Choi to erect a barrier in the corridor to delay the soldiers while the others flee. The troops soon arrive and open fire, ceasing only when the barricade is mostly dismantled. Tragically, Choi sustains severe injuries and succumbs. With soldiers drawing nearer, the prisoners complete their escape, prompting Cheok to descend as well. However, Taesang opts not to join, instead tossing down the rope to serve as a diversion. With survival in mind, Gu drives off with the group, leaving Taesang behind. Returning to the corridor, Taesang fights on, firing his weapon relentlessly. Suddenly, he's struck by falling glass, sustaining grave wounds, compelling him to flee through the vents. Regrettably, soldiers discern his escape route and pursue him through the vents. Taesang runs swiftly but tumbles into a chute, landing in a room filled with bones. Upon awakening, he confronts a soldier brandishing a gun, and gunfire resounds in the chamber. Meanwhile, upstairs, Kato realizes the glass of worm water is empty. In the town center, Juntaek is unceremoniously dumped in the street for his father to discover, orchestrated by Taesang's employee bribing individuals. Simultaneously, the bartender entertains the crowd with music. In the midst of the street, the truck halts to release Myongja, reuniting her with Ishikawa. As Gu continues driving, he accelerates to evade pursuing police, nearly colliding upon reaching town. Fortunately, the bartender ignites a street celebration, obstructing the path of the police. The officers take an alternate route, delayed by a line of carriages. Upon reaching Gu's truck, it's deserted as the group slips away amidst the crowd. The rebels assist their escape using carriages arranged by Taesang. While Gu faces arrest, the police violently confront the revelers, igniting chaos and bloodshed in the streets. Fortunately, the sleuths evade capture unscathed. Shortly after, Maida discovers Ishikawa won't return home as he's with Myongja. It's disclosed that she constructed the hospital for Ichiro's experiments, prompting her to dismiss him from his duties. In a bid to salvage his position, Ichiro reveals the creature's existence using Sachimoto's drawings to Maida. It emerges that Maida is responsible for kidnapping Cheok's mom. Taesang, found alive in the bone-filled room, leaves behind a black handprint on the wall as he exits. Meanwhile, in a hotel room, a sleeping Myongja displays a worm crawling beneath her skin. Don't forget to like, subscribe and enable notifications for more content like this. Thank you for watching.